directly confront the person you're talking to. The more that you attach the story to the person, the more conscious the meaning will become. You don't need much attachment in order to make it work. It just needs to basically parallel. Just make it parallel somehow, and that'll work just fine.
Do you know the author of that story?
I don't.
Okay.
All right. I don't use as much metaphor as I'd even like to. I used to do it a lot. It can get really lengthy. And so sometimes I get impatient and I'm thinking, you know, doggone it, I don't want to sit here and tell a 25-minute story. You know, the nice thing about the story is, in the story you can have the main character do all kinds of fun stuff. Like, all of a sudden he decides to go on a travel, to go traveling. And he decides to explore the ocean. And he goes deep in the ocean, where the treasures are. In fact, he went so deep, it got so dark, he couldn't see anything anymore. But his automatic sonar beacon located the treasure. And he brought it back with him. He was excited to get to the surface so he'd know what it is. Now, years later, just go right, you know, they have to start fooling on, what was it? How do I use it? You know, but the mind will do that. So it's a phenomenal tool that you can use, and I think it would be really good for us just to like have a base of these that we can all start from. That might be kind of fun. As it is, the way I started to do it is I just read a bunch of therapeutic books on it, and then started using a lot of those metaphors, and now I can pretty much just generate them. But I find myself limited to, you know, a long time ago in a land far away, once there was a magical kingdom in the land of King Arthur and the knights. But you know, it's like after a while you get bored with those. So well, let's come up with a whole bunch of new ones, and then that'll give us a bigger base. So that's metaphor. Now what else can we use? We can do submodality changes inside a trance. So you can do any of the submodality changes that, you know, move pictures around, make them bigger, brighter, darker, closer, farther. All those can be done as a form of suggestion. So, for example, as a true form of suggestion, you might say it like this. As that problem is smalling now, and you find it disappearing from view altogether. And by the way, using language incorrectly like that is, again, fills up more of the 7 plus or minus 2. And when you use it like that, they go, well, let's see, problem. How would it be getting smaller? And to answer that question, it starts shrinking. Okay? So you can start doing like that. In fact, it only happens as rapidly as what you really would like to have begins to grow just as fast, just as big as the other picture was. In fact, watch where they pass themselves as they exchange places. Okay, so that kind of language is all based on suggestion to accomplish an outcome, and it's all using submodalities. Okay, so we've covered that. You know how to do it. You can use anger anytime throughout the entire trance. Anytime you want to reinforce something further, and you can set that up before the trance. You don't have to do it in the trance. Okay? So that's useful. And we've covered all that. Conscious, unconscious dissociation. Okay, the point of conscious, unconscious dissociation, generally speaking, is it deepens the trance. The next thing it does is it separates things. So, for example, if I used, let's say I'm trying to get a person to be more motivated to keep learning. I might say, you know, there's a part of you inside that you're not aware of because it simply is slippery. It disappears. Every time you think you got your finger on it, it's somewhere else. And this part is responsible for your motivation. In fact, it's so good that no matter what, if all of your whole mental power attacked at once, it could get out from under it and still make you motivated. It has such incredible powers of motivation that it can slip right into where it's needed at the right time and back out again before you even know it. But all of a sudden, there you go again, feeling motivated. What an incredible part this is. And you, on the other hand, can really enjoy the fact that you take responsibility for having it. You gave it its ability, you gave it its directions, and there it goes, zooming around, making you motivated. Wow. That's kind of cool because when you think about it, it's nice not to have to worry or to think about being motivated. It's nice to just let it happen on its own. So, let's do a test. See if you can find it real quick. And notice that it's not there. Oops, did I forget to tell you? That activated it. Huh. So you can talk like that and watch them real closely. If Randall's looking at me right now, it doesn't work. You have to do something else, okay?
I don't think that's necessarily true, because he can look at you like that and it's still working.
Even though he doesn't know it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so far outside of his awareness that he has yet to figure it out. But when it does become in his awareness, it'll probably be 10 times more effective, right? You see, really the whole point of today was to take the inductions that you learned last time and add to them the concept of utilization. Utilization is taking the information the person gives you, both before, during, and after trance, and working with it to help the person recover and recall resources that will give them the ability automatically to overcome any problem they have or do better at whatever they want to do better at. Remembering that the basic presupposition we're operating from is people have all the resources they need inside them to get what they want. They don't need something that doesn't exist. It already exists and they have it. Okay? Based on that, what you're doing is finding a way to word it, to language it, so that they have permission and it's easy and it seems like it just makes sense. It's like your job is the tour guide. You know London and they've never been there. And your job is to make it smooth for them to go visit London, have a good time, and come home. Okay? And if we can do that much today, you now can be very effective as hypnotists. Now what you need is some experience. And then you need feedback based on that. So as you go out and get that kind of experience rapidly, be telling me about these things as you do them, and I'll be giving you feedback about how you did. So recall what you did and what they did, and if it worked, or if you needed more sessions and why, and all these kinds of things. And then, come back and talk to me about it, and I'll give you some answers and some feedback. We need to look at two last things real quick: future pacing and reorientation. Future pacing is important because you can build a state, an emotional state right now as a result of trance and language and all that kind of stuff that may be very powerful right now. It may be very effective right now. They may believe right now that they've overcome the problem. But if you don't move it into where they're going to need it when the problem used to come up, they may not have access to it then. They may only have access to it now. Interesting. Future pacing is important because you can build a state, an emotional state right now as a result of trance and language and all that kind of stuff that may be very powerful right now. It may be very effective right now. They may believe right now that they've overcome the problem. But if you don't move it into where they're going to need it when the problem used to come up, they may not have access to it then. They may only have access to it now. Interesting, okay? So it's very simple to future pace. All you do, in the most generic way, is all the benefits that you've received today in this session are now available to you at times in the future where if we hadn't made this change, you would have responded in the old way, but now you'll respond in this new way. To prove that to yourself, jump ahead in the future a few times. See times where you would have responded in an old way, but this time see it happening perfectly, exactly the way you want it. When that's done, nod your head. It's that simple. Now, if you want that word for word, just transcribe it off the tape. I can even write it maybe and bring it or something like that. It's real simple. Just say, take this and put it there. Imagine a few times where it actually is there and working, and then tell me when you're done. That's really what future pacing is. It's that simple. Oh, wait a minute, because I see some of you furiously writing. Okay.
And what about that on the convincer strategy? Do you have to do it a number of times in the future as per the convincer strategy?
Oh, not necessarily, no. Not necessarily. Because the convincer strategy is how they get to the point where they're going to take that action.
Yes.
Once they've committed to taking the action, now we have a different strategy in effect. We have the keeping it strategy.
Yes.
Okay, lastly is reorientation. When you reorient someone from trance, the easiest way to do it is to switch them from an internal frame of reference to an external. Just do the exact opposite that you did putting them in. It's a really enjoyable experience to stop, go inside, and experience a profound period of time of personal growth and change. In the time we've spent together today, you've experienced an incredible amount of unconscious resources all joining together to give you what it is you really want. And as you acknowledge to yourself that your unconscious is so capable of doing that, as you felt it work today, really all you have to do is just now, let the unconscious do it. And so at this point, it's probably nice to start to switch your awareness. And you're sitting in a chair, which is in a room, and there's an area behind you where people frequently, there's a sink and people may put plates and that kind of thing. And you can feel your arms and your legs, and you might as well just move them right now so that you can start to get back adjusted to being fully conscious. And sometimes I like to take a deep breath, because that kind of just plants you right back in your body real solid. And maybe you have an itch or something that you weren't aware of, and now you have to itch it. Of course, that lets you know the suggestions have been totally accepted at all levels. And then just like you would in the morning when it's time to get up, wake yourself up right now, open your eyes, and be all the way back here. That's as simple as reorientation is. Switch them to the external environment. Okay? Now you can do it easier. You can say, okay, hypnosis session's over, so come on back.
Yeah. Pay and leave.
Come on back and make sure and pay if you want the changes to last. No, that's tacky. So it's what you want to do is you want to call an official termination. That's really what we're doing. We're, again, making statements to the effect that what we did today worked. This was something powerful. This was out of the ordinary. This is something that will change your life, and you can really be grateful to yourself for going through all that. Now that that happened, let's come back to where we started from, but bringing all the changes with us. I'm just saying the same thing over and over in many different ways, so it'll be on tape for you. Okay? Once they're back, you need to choose whether or not you want to use amnesia. Now, by the way, if they go deep enough, and you've had them there long enough, they probably will forget everything anyway, even without you suggesting. There's a good chance they will. And by the way, why? Why would that happen?
Different states.
Yes, the states are so radically removed from each other. It's like alcoholics will make certain commitments and decisions while they're drunk, and they forget that they ever did those things when they're sober.
They have to get drunk.
They have to get drunk, and then they remember the commitments and decisions. It goes back and forth like that. Okay? So if you get a person in an altered enough state, they may well have amnesia anyway. But if you want to create amnesia, how would you do it? Change the subject quick. That's one of the easiest ways to do it. Just change the subject, get them involved about talking about something else for a couple of minutes, and then send them home. If they say, I'd like to talk about this, because when you said this, and then you said that, I was wondering what you meant, because I was feeling, one of the things you can do at that point is say, I'd be more than happy to discuss this with you when we meet next. Right now, based on my experience, it makes a lot more sense to just let all this sink in now. In fact, the less you think about it, the more powerful the change will be. The more you think about it, the more you'll find yourself getting distracted and not being able to anymore. For some strange reason, which I'm not sure, but you are. And so the reason that we do that, what is the reason? Why don't we want people analyzing it? They'll tear it apart. They'll disrupt it. Sometimes a change, when it's first created, is fragile. It's like a little package. It's like a little glass package or something. It's fragile, and it's sitting there, and it needs reinforcement. And that reinforcement will come every time the future pace is kicked in. That's like a post-hypnotic suggestion. It gets stronger, and it gets stronger, and it gets stronger. Every time they respond the way they should, it gets stronger. And you need to let that happen for a period of time. If you just start discussing it, it's like you just took the glass box apart. And now it doesn't even have shape anymore, really. And therefore, it probably will have no effect. The more traumatic the session is, the more you want to just leave it alone afterwards. You know, if a person has been raped, or if they've been burglarized and beat up really bad, or something like that, they may have a lot of repressed stuff if they don't know it until they go into a trance. When you're able to elicit that kind of information from someone in a trance, by all means, go back and blank, you know, use amnesia, get rid of that. But do it more lovingly even than they did for themselves. And what I mean by that is tell them, look, obviously you have put this out of your mind, so to speak, for a reason. So I want you to do it again, but for only so long as it takes for you to completely be okay with this, resolve any conflicts, and then let your consciousness be aware of it. Okay? That gives them a chance to become aware sooner or later. Okay? And I think awareness is important and nice. And furthermore, why leave anything buried at the unconscious level for no reason? Like just like time to empty the garbage. Okay? All right, so that's how I use amnesia. Well, I feel like I've certainly done my job because you all look like you're in neutral. Or maybe park. And the engine's shut off. The lights are off. So I think we'll call it quits for tonight. What you know at this point, what you have available to you, are the resources to do two things, which is what I started off telling you in this class. So let me just reiterate real quickly. You, first of all, have the ability to now begin to notice when people are altering their states of consciousness. You can see it happen. And you've had it done enough to you to see it happen. Second, your suggestion skills are sharper by far. Because of these 2 days, they're sharper because you have to put them together at pretty high speed just to be able to do this. Third, you can actually induce trance now in someone who's never had trance induced and solve some simple problems. Now, in the therapy class that we'll be coming out with here pretty quick, I'll give you more therapeutic skills that you could combine with the trance to actually create, you know, like phobia cures or change personal history patterns and switch patterns and all kinds of stuff. But really, you have all of the language that you need to be able to make that happen. So practice with it. I'm telling you right now, you have a glass box inside, okay? And what you need to do to fortify it is practice, practice, practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Okay? So what you need to do is go out and do 5 sessions this week. Get 5 clients this week to put into a trance. I don't care if they pay, I don't care if they're just friends, I don't care if they don't, I don't care. Just sit down in front of 5 people and try to get them to go into an altered state. That will secure this knowledge. It really will. If you really want to do it, find someone to try to explain this to. Explain the basis of it. Why does it work? How does it work? How do suggestions work? Okay? Remember, repetition is a big key there. All right? So was this fun? I mean, is this good? Okay for you? All right. You're probably too tired to feel all the excitement that you will be shortly experiencing as you think back on this tomorrow morning, but you can let me know that with a phone call if you'd like, or a nice letter, or just donations of cash.
How about for purpose of the video, we give you some applause?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that we need to stage that so that I ask you for it and you consent even kind of unwillingly.
Yeah.